Right, this is my Unit 3. I'm going to present normal operating procedures, emergency operating procedures and staff training in the Leisure Centre as a sports coach to my friend Josh. First you have scenarios. This is where NOP, normal operating procedures, a coach running a futsal session in the sports hall. EOP, you're coaching a session of futsal to a young bunch of kids that their fire breaks out. Then staff training. This is where staff procedures are in place to teach a new apprentice. Firstly, the answer to NOP is I take a register to count how many kids I've got in my session. EOP, this is where if a fire breaks out I get all the kids out and then check them off by the register I did earlier to make sure I have all the kids in my possession. Then on to staff training. This is where a new apprentice would be taught what to do in case of a situation like this occurred again. Now on to normal operating procedures. This is where you're checking the area which the sporting activity occurs when doing your exercise. This is in place so that no accidents can happen, so that people under my care can protect themselves, as well as me not getting sued for me being liable for things on the floor that can injure my participants. Now on to, yes, this is important, because if you were not to clean up the floor, which the rubbish or needles or things can be on the floor, and my kids trip up, this is where they can get seriously injured and I'm not doing my job properly to keep them under the duty of care. For example, if the staff were using a mop on the toilet, in the toilet area of the leisure centre, and then come into where I'm training in the hall and use the same mop, this is where it can carry disease, and if one of my kids falls over and cuts his knee and then gets the disease in his knee, he can sue me due to the fact that I've used the mop in the toilet as well as this. This is where more colour-coded mops are in the leisure centre so that these can stop. For instance, there's a red mop for the toilet, a blue mop for general areas, a green mop for the kitchen, and yellow to mop up sick and blood, etc. Now onto the NOP. Normal operating procedures carry out key elements like the Health and Safety at Work Act of 1974. This is used as normal operating procedures. Myself, as a member of staff of the Leisure Centre, have to follow the guidelines put in by the Health and Safety Work Act in 1974. This enforces that I follow the guidelines so that serious accidents don't happen and lead to EOP, which is an emergency operating procedure. These guidelines are put in place and I do not follow them. This is where I can be liable to be sued or to be prosecuted, as I'm not being responsible and I'm not doing my duty of care to look after the kids, so I'm not following the guidelines that are put in place to follow, as I'm breaking the law. Now on to COSH. This is where it comes into play in the leisure centre down to the swimming pool. This is because in the swimming pool there are chemicals put in there to keep the water sterile, so that when swimming you don't get any injuries and stuff. These dangerous chemicals should be put in a locked cabinet that not members of the public can reach, and a lock should be on the cupboard. But in my process of doing this, if I did not lock the cupboard and leave the cupboard open so that members of the public can process this and get the chemicals, then I'm liable to be sued and prosecuted, as if these chemicals are out and cause an EOP, an emergency operating procedure, and a member of the public gets injured, then I'm liable for that, as I've left the cupboard open. This is where staff training is involved, as you are taught as a member of staff, as young, that you should lock the cupboard and keep it safe at all times so a member of the public cannot get these chemicals and then cannot spread them around the leisure centre, causing harm to other people using the leisure centre. Now on to another normal operating procedure. This is called RIDDA. This is where if any incidents, accidents or dangerous concerns / occurrences are reported to your superior, so it reduces the amount of risk that could danger the participants of the hall and eliminate any risk that can happen again. This is used as a normal operating procedure because if any incidents happen you report them straight away so that they can be sorted out straight away, as well as then get rid of the risks that can occur again and be dismissed and got rid of, down to the RIDDA Act being in a normal procedure. In addition to this, it can be linked with EOP, as if these incidents are not reported and left and they then build up, this can lead to an EOP, as the amount it reduces, then it doesn't work as a build up, which means more risk can happen because there is a bigger pile of, I don't know, say I didn't clear the bins out and the bin came out bigger, there is more risk around that because there is more rubbish in the bin which then falls around it, which means if you're walking past the bin you could trip and seriously injure yourself if the bin is overflowing. There, in conjunction with this, it also links into staff training, as in staff training you are taught to report any incident or log the incident when they happen, what time they happen and what date that happened. So these incidents can be looked at and then barriers can be put in place so that these incidents don't happen again. Now on to Health and Safety, First Aid 1981. This is used in NOP as it is a normal operating procedure to be able to administer first aid to an injured member of the public that is using your equipment. If you are not able to administer first aid to an injured member of the public using your equipment, then it can potentially lead to an EOP, as if you do not know what to do, and the patient needs first aid desperately, and you cannot minister it, or you do it and it makes the problem worse, then you are not fulfilling your duty of care to the participants of your course, and one of your jobs is to look after all the participants of your course/activity you are running. This then leads on to staff training, as you will be taught how to do first aid on a first aid course if you did not know how to do it before, and if you did not know how to do it and you were working at the leisure centre, then your manager of your leisure centre would put you on a first aid course so that you can match the first aid requirements of the leisure centre, so then if an injured member of your course gets injured, you can minister them first aid. Now on to emergency operating procedures, e.g. fire. This procedure is in place because if in case of a fire happens in a leisure centre, every member of staff should know what to do and keep every member of the leisure centre safe. Yes, these are important due to the fact these alert people to a fire where it is happening and how it is happening, and get people into a safe environment and then control the fire in the leisure centre. If you don't have these procedures, then people are unaware that there are fire and can be seriously hurt as they are not alert that there is a fire in the leisure centre and you cannot help them. A sporting example of this is if I was running a bunch of kids in a futsal session and a fire broke out, I would evacuate them to a safe area at the fire point located in the car park and get them there, and then refer back to the register I did earlier as a normal operating procedure and take them off as make sure I've got all kids, and if not, then I refer back to the earlier point of RIDA, where then I report to my superior that I'm missing kids, and then hopefully we can get them out safe and sound. Serious injury. This procedure is in place so that every member of the staff knows what to do in case a serious injury happens at the leisure centre. As you can see by the diagram, this is where a fire starts out. Everyone evacuates the building safely. Then I refer to the leisure centre. Then I refer to the register I did in the leisure centre earlier, so that then I can tick off all the kids I've got, and if not, report back to my superior. Then I go to then I wait for the fire brigade at the fire point and alert them if any kids are missing. Now on to staff training. We have staff training so that the staff working in the leisure centre know what to do in certain situations and know what to do professionally. This is important as the leisure centre will sometimes be put in awkward situations which they don't know what to do, so the staff training is in place so that when going on courses like that you know what to do in every situation and are able to deal with it. If we did not have staff training and staff were put in these awkward situations, then they would not know what to do and panic, which again leads to the fact that if I don't know what I'm doing as a member of staff, then how come other people can be safe if I don't know what I'm doing? So staff training is in there, so at all times I know what I'm to do if in case there's an emergency. The centre manager is responsible for training, as this means he sends staff away for a day where they train for certain procedures if they do not have that training before. A sporting example of this is if a fire breaks out in the sports hall and the staff do not know what to do, then either myself or the children under my care can get seriously hurt, which refers back to the high duty of care that I have, as I am not looking after the child responsibly by knowing what to do in an emergency. This contributes to safety as we carry out my staff training properly. I will know what to do in certain situations, which prevents me from losing the children under my care and keeping them from getting injured. They are related to the other two, as if I did not carry out the register and normal operating procedure, then I could not prevent injury to the children under my care if an emergency procedure wasn't learned through staff training, e.g. fire. As you can see from the diagram, this is the diagram of the leisure centre. The leisure centre is the blue rectangle. Then you have the orange circle and the orange square there, which represent fire alarms in the building. Then you've got the black boxes that are all located there, which locate the fire exits, and all are made aware when entering the leisure centre. Then the green box there represents the first aid box, that in case of an injury or an accident happens, then I can refer to the first aid box and administer first aid.